Meets World.
What up, bros?
What up, bros? I like that.
And welcome to Bruh Meets World.
When it's Bro Meets World.
Your boy Meets World Fun Cause, and this is an extra credit episode where we will be
Ceej.
talking about the latest in the Scream franchise, Scream 6. Anyone who has listened, anyone who knows me, anyone who's just like aware, knows that this was my Super Bowl. This was me. Like, this was Christmas. This is everything. And I'm so excited. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts because we have not expressed to each other. Well, I expressed to you a moment I left the theater how I felt about it, but I have no idea what TC thinks about it. So
Yeah, we're taking a break from our typical Boy Meets World conversation, and we know we've been away for a while, but don't worry, we have episodes coming out soon, so we're going to be back on season 6, but the Scream movie coming out, if our longtime listeners know, Scream is Ceej's favorite franchise, so we had to put out a mini episode, and I have so many thoughts, controversial hot takes that I
so
can't
excited.
wait
So
to
excited.
share with you.
By the way,
yeah.
You just reminded me, I'm Ceej.
Yeah, I'm Tony Curtis. That's how excited we are to jump into this conversation. We were like, fuck the intro. We don't need any of it.
Yeah, all right. So, like, starting off with our morning announcements, just to give you guys, as T had kind of alluded to earlier, we know we are in the middle of season 6. It's kind of been dragging you guys. Life just comes at you fast. We've each been dealing with personal things that kind of took us out for like an entire month of recording. But that said, we are back. We are dedicated to getting this out. Just so you all know, not only do we have more guests coming for season 6, we are back again we've been invited back again for Pod season 2. So,
oh my God, I can't even get into that shit, bro. I've been specifically holding back all of my thoughts on season 2 of Pod Meets World to not talk about on this podcast. So I have nothing but hot takes for when we go back.
Definitely, like you're right. Now that we've done it, I have like so many notes on like, all right, these like I know what questions I want to ask. I've had ones that like have been burning for a while that I'm like, all right, this is the season to ask this question. So in other morning announcements, we know that you all were really excited to hear our thoughts on some political action that's going on. For those of you who don't know, Ben Savage, aka Corey Matthews, is running for U.S. Congress, specifically for, I think it's the 30th district, which includes Hollywood, where we live. And I was going to say this right off the bat. We do not know Ben. We have not spoken to him the way that we have the other cast. I will do my best out of respect of the show and the cast to be open to a lot of things. However, he is specifically running in my district, and as a potential constituent, I'm going to air some of my thoughts.
Well, okay, I'll say this because you're right. I don't really know a ton about Ben Savage's political stances, specifically because he's not super transparent with a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did see his he did a guest shot on Good Morning America the other day to kind of promote his run.
Yeah.
And just from watching that interview, and guys, please look up the Ben Savage Good Morning America run video so you can watch, see what I'm talking about. Yeah. This motherfucker looks nervous. He does not seem comfortable like playing that politics game. And I know he has a passion for it, but at least on that interview, he seemed so nervous.
Yeah, you got to sell that charisma. If you like, specifically, if you want people, let's not deny it. Like, as much as he wants to distance himself, even in the clip that we saw, they play Boy Meets World. I literally laughed out loud when they rolled the clip. But it's something like you are tied to Boy Meets World, you're using the name recognition, you're gonna have to give us some of that Corey charisma. Like, that's what you're gonna have to do a little bit if you want to sell. And I'm not saying that you have to be Corey, because you are your own person, and Ben Savage has his own right, his own thoughts. He's not the same character, but you are kind of relying on name recognition in order to get people out to vote for you. And if that's the case, you're going to have to sell that character a little bit. That's my initial thought. Go ahead.
I have a hot take, which is, okay, the real ones know what I'm talking about. The real ones who have been watching like the convention videos, who watched all the Girl Meets World press.
I know where you're going, but keep going.
Who listen to the DVD commentary know that like Ben has never been that ultra charismatic dude. He's always seemed a little bit, of all the central casts, the most, like, at least publicly, the most reserved. Absolutely. And the most seemingly uncomfortable with the attention, even though, you know, Will Friedle has struggled with anxiety, and Ryder Strong seems like someone who doesn't really care for the public eye very much. They seem like they have a far easier time talking in front of people with a microphone than Ben ever did. And so in the comments when I'm like watching the Good Morning America video, and they were like, oh, you would think that a TV star would have a little bit more charm. And I'm like, no, the real ones know that Ben's never been that dude.
Here's the thing. You're right. I watched it being like, oh, this is exactly what I expected him to be like. However, I'm saying someone on his team needs to be like, look, we need to give you a script and you need to ham it up just for this cycle. That's what you got to do. Like, you're trying to sell. Politics is all about selling yourself and your ideas to people. And if you're using name recognition and that character's name recognition is charismatic, that's what you have to bring. Or else it's off brand. It's going to feel disjointed because people are going to remember like even in that clip, they're going to remember that passion. They're going to remember that character, and you got to sell them that character a little bit. It's what Trump did. It's what Reagan did. It's what Arnold Schwarzenegger did. It's like, if you want to be in politics as an actor, you have to be willing to give the people what they want a little bit. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're really not ready for politics. And that's just a blanket statement. I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm saying if you want to go down this road, that's what you got to do.
Here's a controversial take. I wonder if, okay, because here's something I will say. From watching his Good Morning America video, it seems as though he has a true passion for this in his own right. Yes. Like, he went to college for this. Like,
absolutely.
I just wonder, I feel kind of bad for him because I wonder if he ever really wanted to be an actor. Was this thing that he ever had the choice to make really? Like, you know what I mean? He was in Little Monsters when he was like 5 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
I do know
what say in did he have in determining his career trajectory, but also, like, at what point did he say to himself, what do I want to do? What do I love? What do I care about? And I don't know that acting was ever it. I just feel like it's something that was like the family business he got into. Fred's getting a lot of good attention doing this. He's making a lot of money. You're cute. Well, let's throw you in the Wonder Years episode. Oh, they really like you. Let's keep having you come back. Oh, now you're on the series for 7 years. And so, like, I just have to wonder, like, based off of his overall persona, if that was something he ever really gave a fuck about. And if he didn't, that's fine. I just, like, from watching his, like, on-screen persona, he just always seems a little uncomfortable in the limelight.
Here's the thing. I'm going to say, whether or not he ever wanted to do it is irrelevant, specifically in this role. It's the brand that you have. Anyone who's good at marketing, anyone who's good at politics, anyone who knows how to sell is going to tell you, you got to go with what people think you are in order to get them on board. You can do the bait and switch. Plenty of politicians do it. Get into office and be like, this is the real me. And it would not be the first time. But I'm saying that if you go into it, like what we know about child actors, and Cole Sprouse is coming out saying, you know, like, how his relationship with his parents is because he was forced into being a child actor. We hear all the stories from the cast and crew about what it was like to be a child actor. I'm not saying that that has to be the center of his platform. I'm saying he has to bring that personality because that personality is what people know. If you're going to lean, and
it's the only reason he's on Good Morning America is because he was on Boy Meets World.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, name another candidate who's been on Good Morning America who's gotten like that kind of spot in time. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to say,
it also seems like something that's impossible for the rest of the cast not to have to, like, talk about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone's going to be like, so what do you think about Ben running? Like, I don't know. It just seems like something
but here's
that...
the thing. Like your thoughts can be like, if that's what Ben wants to do, then that's what Ben wants to do. Like you don't have to align with someone's politics to support them.
Sure,
And
yeah.
like, imagine if someone came to us and was like, hey, that kid you went to high school with is running for Congress. What are your thoughts? Like, if you haven't spoken to them in a while, or if you guys, you're just gonna be like, if that's what they want to do, cool. Like, what are his policies? Where does he stand? That's the really important thing. And to that, I will say there have been plenty of people who've asked me, and I'm gonna be honest and raise my concerns. A lot of this, as someone who lives in the area, it feels a little like I'm thinking twice. I was going to use one word, but I'm thinking twice about what I'm hearing, because it feels very much like gentrification at its max. The area that he's talking about is known for being diverse, and it's known for being inclusive. And yes, LA has a lot of problems, as any major city does, because of the financial situation that the city has caused. However, I'm hearing tones of adding more police. I'm hearing tones of dealing with the homeless population. And it's like, let's be honest here. Most of those are things that those who can in this town just don't want to deal with. They don't want to see it. And I'm not gonna lie, it feels a little secret conservative to me.
Well, you know what? I'm going to open up the platform to Ben Savage. Please come on our show and tell us how you plan to govern
this would be
this
the most
area.
Amazing reason that he would join.
I honestly, like, if Ben Savage was like, hey guys, I want to come on. I don't want to talk shit about Boy Meets World. I just want to talk politics. Dream, try, do good, bro. Like, we're here for it.
We're here do good.
We're here for it. That should be his campaign slogan, by the way. If it's not, he's so stupid.
Wait. So again, you guys, we're going to get into this, but trust me. I looked at the Good Morning America clip, as you had mentioned, and right off the bat, I was like, they are skirting around that do good. Like, they keep circling around it, and I'm like, it's almost there. Just say it.
Yeah.
Just say it. And again, you say it and you're good. But I feel like he's trying to distance himself. Anyway, we've talked about this enough. Let's get into
I do want to say one thing real fast, positive, which is that he got engaged like a month or so ago. Like, so congratulations on Ben. He seems like he's really trying to
live the life he wants to live.
Yeah, live a life defined by his own terms, which is something that we heard Ryder talk about when we interviewed them too, which is something extremely difficult for child actors. So whatever he's doing, I wish him the best and I wish him happiness. And we can get into the politics of it when he's on our podcast.
Okay, now, what you've all been waiting for, at least what I've been waiting for sure, is Scream 6. Okay.
Scream 6. So let's talk about it.
All right. So first of all, right off the bat, for those of you who don't know, we're just going to get directly into it. We've seen the movie. We hope you've seen the movie. This will be a spoiler-filled review reaction. Just know that we're talking about shit because we've seen the movie. If you haven't seen it, pause it, go see it, and then come check it out. All right. So Scream 6. T. Where do you want to begin? Because I can begin anywhere. I'm so excited. I'm just like, I don't
you know what? Do you want to give a quick recap of the film?
Want to do that? Just tell me about it?
Like a tell. Yeah, I don't really have a tell me about it prepared per se, but if you just want to give a quick off the cuff summary, like I can give one as well. Like I just feel like it will help to
go ahead.
It.
So this will be a tell me about it sans rap. So sorry, y'all, we ain't got the rap. We weren't there for it. But if you have a rap, again, hit us up. Let us know what you think. So 4 survivors of the Ghostface murders leave Woodsboro behind for a fresh new start in New York City. However, they soon find themselves in a fight for their lives when a new killer embarks on a bloody rampage. You guys, I gotta say.
First thoughts, Ceej, let's hear it.
First thoughts right off the bat. I don't know where you stand. I thought this was the best Scream since 1. Like, it goes
interesting.
Scream 1 and then this one for me. I loved it. I thought this. Here's how I feel about Scream franchise. I feel like it's one of the better franchises. Like, we're talking hits after hits. even the ones that are bad are better than some of the ones than some of the best ones in other franchises. Like Scream is just like a really fantastic franchise. And on top of that, I will also say that this one seemed to understand everything I hated about the last one. It really responded to it. Like, I don't know if they were in the threads. I don't know if they listened to the last episode, but I will say that every concern that I had about the last one was addressed in this one. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's way more gorier than I was expecting. You know how I am with gore. I was like, oh, y'all going in.
Yeah.
But right off the bat, I thought that the story worked. I thought that the characters worked. And I really, really, I was here for the good time. What was your first reaction?
Okay, I had a fantastic time in my theater experience. I know you like to go to a Thursday night show. I like a Friday night show.
A Friday night show is probably good. It's probably more family. It's probably more.
It is. It's like there's more kids there. Like, I don't know. There's something about like a slasher movie that's like, I kind of want to see this movie with teenagers. Like, that's just a great barometer for that kind of setting for me. So, with Friday night, had a great time in my theater experience. I will also say that I watched every Scream movie leading up to the release of this one. I know you watched all of them not too long ago as well.
Correct.
I thought it was a good time. And I'm going to say something really controversial here.
Go for it. Go for it.
I don't think there's such a thing as a good Scream sequel.
What?
I'm just going to say that.
What?
The franchise, which I know this movie specifically kind of zeroes in on franchises specifically. I feel like there's not a single Scream sequel that doesn't have third act problems.
You know what? I didn't say that it was perfect.
Yeah.
I did not say it was perfect.
I will say this, like, especially like the movies that the Scream sequels that I gravitate towards, and this one is in the top of the Scream sequels. They all have things where I'm just like, oh, if they just changed like these three things, I would like this movie so much more.
I agree with that.
I mean, I'll get into all my hot takes and stuff, but I just have to throw this out there that, like, other than Scream 1, there has not been a killer reveal that has been satisfying to me.
Really? So here's the thing. I'm going to say, so right off the bat, again, we told y'all, spoilers, right? I called the killers immediately.
In Scream 6?
I called it immediately, but to me, they did a good misdirect. This is the first Scream movie with 3 killers. And I was like I knew it was 2, but then there were people where I'm like, it's gotta be you. But then they would just be in the scene and I'd be like, well, no, but it's gotta be you. And then there were like just little hints and they was like right off the bat, like let's talk about the killers. So this is the first Scream with 4 killers, because in the very beginning, our opening act, let's like we've jumping around.
Well, technically there's 5 killers because there's 2 Ghostface killers that get
we've never seen in the opening scene. That's why I said there's 4 in the opening scene. I'm just gonna start there because why not? In the opening scene, we get I also judge a Scream movie by its opening scene. And this one is up there. It does it right. Like, again, last time we had this weird thing with Jenna Ortega, and it felt weird and it felt off. And
the Jenna Ortega opening from Scream 5 felt like there's so much of Scream 5 that felt like they were just trying to do a modern retelling of Scream 1.
Correct.
Whereas this felt new and unique. The idea of having Samara Weaving, is that how you say her name? Samara Weaving.
Yeah.
She's, she's at a bar, she's texting someone she's supposed to meet for a date, and that person ends up being Ghostface.
Really quickly.
Amazing.
First of all, what I liked was the idea that with the first ring that we hear is actually just at the restaurant. And I was like, again, that's someone who understands what Scream is about. It's just like, we know what you're looking for. Completely misdirected, subverting that expectation. Her being on her cell phone. Immediately, she's meeting a guy she's never met before at a bar. We're like, oh, I immediately know what's doing. We all know that that's Ghostface. We all understand if you're talking to someone on the phone, then we
And
find out.
what a thrill to add on top of like dating digitally is already so scary, but
Correct.
to add Ghostface into the mix, amazing.
Absolutely. And then what I also like is the use of the voice modulator in various ways. Very like we haven't done that since Scream 3, I think. And it's one of those things to where if you have the technology to change your voice, why do you immediately go to Ghostface, especially at this point in time? Like I like that they had the conversation just through text. Then we hear the voice and we're like, "Oh, it's not Ghostface voice. It's like a regular dude."
Can I just say something real fast? Because you mentioned Scream 3. The technology in Scream 3 is science fiction. It did not exist
I love that you
in
said
1998. It exists now.
It does, but
in 2023,
like right now.
Like just happened that I can make Morgan Freeman my voice. Like that just happened like a month ago.
It's so funny you say that because I literally, for those who don't know, on my birthday, I had like a Stabathon marathon. Like I watched all the Screams for my birthday, and we were watching 3, and I was like, "And what? We don't have that technology now." Is when I watched it, and then like 3 weeks later, they were like, "Hey, you're allowed to do this on," and I was like, "That took AI. We are 20 years beyond that movie, and that movie is just like." Oh, everybody has it. Everyone's able to just call.
We're gonna have a section at the end of this podcast where we talk about the sequels to the other ones. I don't want to spend too much time on Scream 3 because I have so many thoughts on that. But yeah, it's just funny.
This one opening up, we have again. He's like, "Hey, I'm outside," and again, you're like, "No," but like also it's the city. So I think what I liked about this one, and I always say, Scream is what the character Samara Weaving's character says, and what I believe is that Scream is actually a reflection of our relationship to technology at the time. And that's been symbolized by the telephone, but it's just our relation to technology. And I really enjoyed how they use that, how they use Reddit, they use dating apps, they use cell phones, they use all of those things against us in this movie to subvert our expectations. And I really, really appreciated it.
And I also love how organically the conversation about what she does for a living is that she teaches a class on slasher movies. So when he organically says, "So what's your favorite scary movie?" it doesn't seem like a Ghostface thing. It just seems like that's a natural question to ask someone who teaches a class on this.
Absolutely. And then when I don't know about your theater, but my theater, when he goes, "What's your favorite scary movie?" she goes, "Not that one." Again, self-awareness. It gave us that parody. And then he gets her out into the alley, and I was like, "Girl, you gotta be smarter than this." Even in New York, like it's an alley. You're not going down an alley. But she went because he was like, "Oh wait, there's somebody here who's like following me." So she went to kind of be protective. It wasn't just out of curiosity.
It's the Ted Bundy routine. It's like, "I'm in danger. I need help. Can you help? Can you assist me?"
Correct. And then they did that fake out that they do in I Know What You Did Last Summer, where she's in the alley, there's people right there, you're looking, and then there's a noise and you get distracted and you think, but out of nowhere, a killer. And then when they get her, I looked at it, I was like, they're gonna unmask the killer right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, where do we go from here when you unmask the killer in the very first act? And sure enough, they did.
Yeah, I love that.
I was so surprised. I was like, "Oh, we're going. I don't know where we can go from here." And I like that feeling in a new Scream franchise. Like, if I don't know where we're going from here, and I'm a huge fan, I was totally down. And then you know that the killer is, you know who the killer is right off the bat. That kid goes back to his apartment.
Tony Ravioli, by the way, the kid from Spider-Man, Flash.
Kid from Spider-Man. Yeah, I was like, good for him. He's getting work.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
He's talking to his roommate, and they were doing it together. I was like, "Oh my god, are we doing the cult thing? Like, are we doing the cult following?"
I can't tell you how disappointed I was that this didn't turn into that. We've been talking about that forever.
I feel like this movie read all the fan theories, and they gave us a little bit of everything. And I really, really appreciate that, because like I was like, oh, we're doing the cult thing. And if you're doing the cult thing, then it really could be anybody. It could
Which
be
is so much
absolutely
scarier.
and it is terrifying because I don't know who it could be. And like the idea of like him being on the phone, having a conversation with his roommate. Again, it's a little bit unbelievable that he's on the phone this long, but I also love this idea of just being like, oh, wait a minute. Are you the killer? Tell me what you know about me. If you really are, if you really are my roommate, like how do we meet? Give me some backstory. Again, it's a movie where these people understand the rules even of Ghostface, and they've all asked these questions, and you feel like you're smarter than the movie, and then it undermines you. And I really, really appreciated that. I don't know. That's just the opening act. I could go on.
I have to say that since Scream 4, I have wanted a Scream movie that revolves around the killer's perspective. And so I thought it was incredibly interesting. But again, it was just a tease until it kind of reverts back into its usual format, which is fine. It's a franchise. It has rules.
Franchise. Yeah.
But I did enjoy that open. Okay. What's your thoughts on this core 4?
Here's the thing. I like the core 4. I feel like the twins we do enjoy. And also,
I like the twins better than the sisters, if I'm being honest.
I agree with you. I like the twins better than the sisters. And I feel like, in all honesty, watching in the beginning, I feel like Jenna Ortega is the weakest link right now.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, specifically, like the character being the bratty little sister. I don't care. I don't want this to define me. It made sense, but it's also like, girl, you are a girl of color living in New York. Someone tried to kill you. You're gonna be a little bit more realistic than this.
I was also thinking, coming from Scream 5, where she is essentially in the hospital bed for most of the movie. We know her character the least. She is supposed to be the center of this friend group, not her sister. But it feels like the twins should be closer to, what's her face? Sam. Than they are with Tara, just because of everything they went through in the last movie. It's an interesting dynamic, but yeah, Tara's character feels like a brand new character because she is so erased from the last movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also, I feel like we've had a core 4. It was now it was 3, but like what I'm saying, in the sequel, it was Randy, it was Sydney, it was Gail, and Dewey. So a core 4 made sense. And even when like the core 4 got challenged, I was like, again, it makes sense. Even like, and I feel like they gave us like this love story between Chad and Tara in a way that I was like, you're both survivors. You've both grown up together. Like, it makes sense even here.
It feels like they're setting them up to be the new Dewey Gale.
Exactly. So because of that, I liked what we were doing with the core 4. I feel like, what's her name? The sister twin. Is it Mindy?
Mindy, yeah, Mindy.
Yeah. Mindy is a new Randy. She's a new
Kirby. We'll get to Kirby. But
yeah, and we like it. Like there are just things where she was like, "Get away from me, Ghostface!" Like she just kept calling dude. She's like, "Nah, I'm not doing this." I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and I really like this dynamic because the twins seem very believable. You understand their bond. You understand their bond in relation to Tara, and kind of like just being older siblings in a way, and looking out because they have a way to connect with Tara that Samantha can't, because Samantha's too busy trying to be the oldest sibling and being like, look, this is serious. We can't. And I like that they regularly just take the initiative to be like, we're not playing by your rules of trying to stay in this situation. The moment anyone gets killed, Samantha's like, we out, we moving, pack a bag. The moment the cop's like, you can't leave, she's like, watch me. They're like, don't leave the state anytime soon. Bye. I'm like, we not staying here if we ain't have to. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah. The twins I love. I love the twins because I feel like outside of the trauma of what's going on, I kind of know who they are.
Yes.
And I don't know that I feel that way about Sam, who is our protagonist.
I don't, but I feel like Sam is, like, to be honest, I'm like, Sydney. Like, she's not, but I'm just like, you've been through some stuff. Like, that understandably is defining you, and you're paranoid and you're scared, but you're also very much like, no matter what, I'm not going down like that. Like,
I have to say that I feel like Sam's character, I would like so much more if she didn't see dead people. I can't believe we're still doing this. Like, it is so strange. Not only that she keeps talking to the ghost of this dead boy that she never met. Yes, it's her father, but she never met him. She always sees him as he was right when he died, which is never how she saw him. So how did she even get this imagery to have this?
I agree.
Serial killer imaginary friend. Like, it just feels so silly. Like, you could show Sam, like, I don't know, like, her struggle with enjoying killing Richie in ways that are more external than having this, like, imaginary drop dead Fred character that she's having these conversations with, like, oh, you should just kill him, you should stab him, you know you want to. It just feels weird.
It's a shortcut, and I will not pretend like it's anything other. It really is like a way for us to understand this kind of like internal drive that she has for violence. And I agree that they kind of took some liberties with that. I do feel like they were smart enough to limit it more this movie than they did in the previous one, because it does get played out and you are very much like, what are we doing here? But it also seems like they may drop that, because at the end, it seemed like that was something that they were like, all right, we don't necessarily need this moving forward. Because she's kind of like cathartically dealt with that. And it's like, I don't have to be my father. I don't have to continue with this, which I really enjoyed. Let's talk about like
legacy characters. I'm going to talk about legacy characters. Yeah.
Legacy character. Let's talk about how they dealt with Gale and Kirby.
Let's start with
Gale. So Gale being there, it feels a little bit like of a retread, with like Gale just constantly going back to being that reporter who like wants to scoop, and being the reporter who told the story that she promised not to tell. Like, that was like a little bit like, again, but in a way, I will say that I did a lot of this work. The movie doesn't necessarily do a lot of this work, but knowing what I know about Gale, I was like, it makes sense that without Dewey, Gale is just like, who am I without, like, even in her universe, this stab franchise? Like, who am I? Like, will people even care? Am I really, like, this is defined my life. This is all I've ever reported on, and every single time it keeps happening. So if I don't center myself in this story, what's my identity without it? And then also them pointing out that she never really had a one-on-one phone call with Ghostface before also was like, oh yeah, it was like a little unfinished business for her.
How do they know that? How would they know that? Well, based on the books? I don't know.
Yeah, based on the book. I think this franchise does a really good job at being like, hey, there are movies out there. There are books out there. There are YouTube.
There's an extended universe.
There's an extended universe of like, this is how these people know these things. Like, think about it. For me, when we talk about the Stab franchise, the very opening act has Casey's life almost beat for beat, and you're like, no one else was there. How do they know all of this stuff with Casey?
Sure, yeah.
So it makes sense that like you're just going to take some creative liberties. Long and short of it all, I did think that they used Gale in a way that made sense in bringing her back. I was like, okay. And then even like Gale's chase scene, Gale being the reporter who like finds things, like everyone being like, yo, Gale's she's good at her job. And that's how she gets things. And her being kind of like the seasoned one who's like, I've done this before. When Gale hangs up, she goes, hold on a sec, and hangs up. And the killer goes, wait, what? I was like, yes. Like, hang up R69 his ass
immediately.
Again, these writers have seen the theories, they've seen the threads, they've seen the fan comments. So to give Gale that moment where Gale just hangs up, calls back, we hear the phone ring, I was like, yes, yes, more of this. The thing I didn't like is, and then also, I feel like it's a commentary because it happens all the time in movies when someone has a gun in the house during a moment of adrenaline and panic. You're trying to open that box, it's not opening.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's just like everyone's like, "Oh, get a gun for safety." How safe is it if when you need it, you can't access it?
She had a 4 code. It was like 4 digits, and I was just like, you can't remember the 4.
Well, it's not that you can't remember the 4. It's that when you're panicking, you're not pushing. The buttons are sensitive. It's like I've had that thing where it's like you need to do something. I'm trying to unlock my phone, and it's just like, nah, you hit it. You hit that one letter two times, and I'm like, unlock. You know what I mean?
I'm Gale Weathers. I'm aware that there's new Ghostface killings happening. I'm walking around like I'm Dirty Harry. I got the shit tucked in my waist. I'm strapped up.
Like, why? Here's the thing I will say, because when Ghostface was like, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest, I was like, okay, why is everyone not? If I'm Gale, if I'm Kirby, if I'm Samantha, yo, Amazon, bulletproof vest, stab resistant mesh under all my clothes at all times.
Forever. Yeah. I will say this, that Scream loves to throw in a bulletproof vest as a reason for why, like, someone survived. Getting shot point blank with the bulletproof vest on will take the wind out of your chest. Like, you are not just getting up and recovering from a bulletproof vest. But, you know, it's fine. It's all good. I have to talk to you about my feelings about Gale because...
Go ahead. I'm here for it.
I, again, watched all the movies. I think she's my least favorite of the original core 4.
I agree. And here's the thing. Because of that, I think that's why they needed to give her something this.
Well, but let me say that I also feel like the Gale that is set up in the original trilogy is this Gale that is this cutthroat, will do anything to get ahead. Her arc is through her relationship with Dewey. She learns to value human life in her own way. That is the original arc that's set up for this woman. That's all I want to say. So when Dewey dies in 5, I'm calling it Scream 5. I'm not calling it Scream.
I know. Yeah.
When Dewey dies, this would have been such a great opportunity to show, like, Gale always thought that Dewey would be there. Like, I'm going to go and do my own thing and I'll come back and he'll always be there. But what happens when he's not there? It would have been, I think, so much more fulfilling to see that the death of Dewey made a significant shift in Gale's outlook on life, to show, like, there's that one moment where in Scream 6 where she's talking to Sam, and you know, you hear Dewey's theme song kind of play in the background, and she's like talking about, like, without really naming him, that Dewey meant. But I'm like, you could have done that in such a bigger, more significant way just by changing the way she tried to help these people. She could have done it through kindness instead of through her normal bullshit. But just to show her, oh, she's fucking some black dude now. Like, she's moved on. Like, she doesn't give a fuck really about anything that's happened in her life thus far. And I just felt like, oh, that's so disappointing to see that, like, there was nothing about her relationship with Dewey that made a long-term impact on her character.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. I feel like it's kind of Gale. That's what I said. It was kind of like a retread with Gale. There were some things where I was like, oh, we're doing this again. And I feel like I would have wanted more growth from you. But at the exact same time, I can't, like I said, I looked at it and I was like, maybe asking for that much growth is too much for someone like Gale. Like, maybe one of the things that Dewey was like, look, every time we try to move forward, you want to go back. You need the attention.
Yeah.
You need this story more than you need me. That was
so. What's her arc then? If that's who she started as and who she ends as, then there's no growth for her character. So when she gets stabbed in this one, I'm like, all right.
Well, and like, what I'd say is, I will say that I don't disagree with you. I do like her whole tell Sydney he never got me. Like, that whole thing, it was just like, okay, you know what? Gail put up a fight, and I do think there is something to be said about like Gail is not one of these children. She's also not one of these strange adults who has like no idea. Gail has been through this a few times, and what I want more than anything is someone who has learned. If you're going to be a legacy character, Kirby. Let's talk about Kirby.
Let's talk about
Kirby. How'd you feel about Kirby?
You start with Kirby.
Oh, okay. I'll say this. It was interesting. I found out this is the first role that Hayden Panettiere has done in years, like I think like 5 years or whatever. It was kind of like I'm not gonna lie, no shade to Hayden Panettiere. It was weird because she was the cheerleader for so long. So to see her older, I was like, yo, I'm old. Like that was like one of my first reactions. But I actually do like the idea of like her being like, all right, I'm gonna not let this like make me scared. I'm gonna take on the role of being in the FBI. And then also when we hear the other cops say that she got dismissed from the FBI, I was like, I don't know, is that true? Like he could have been saying anything, but I do believe Kirby would become someone who like gets a fascination, is just like, you know what, I'm going to take down serial killers. This is going to be my drive. So it made sense. So I thought her addition gave us access that we usually wouldn't have, and I thought that it was a well-written version. And then also there's a moment where Kirby's behavior is sketchy, and I'm like, I don't know. So when they're like, it's Kirby, I'm like, makes sense. Could be. I don't know who to trust. I literally just don't know who to trust at this point in time. So yeah.
Okay. Again, controversial hot take. I feel like everything that made Kirby's character initially likable in Scream 4 was stripped away from her in Scream 6. We have Mindy. Mindy is the new Kirby. Also, her personality and her love of film is tied to her legacy character that she's a descendant of. Like, it makes sense for her to be the film person. So if we have her, Kirby feels like someone who should have come in and like from the perspective of horror movies and like a new take. Like I feel like Kirby should have gave the franchise talk. Like she should have been this person that came in, and maybe her and Mindy kind of like worked off of each other or whatever, but like she was the movie person. So her making a cop when she came in never really made sense to me. I didn't also like how she's like, I hate when movies do this where it's like, I'm a cop but I wear a leather jacket. Like, yeah. I don't follow the rules. It just feels like you just came off the street.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know.
So when they're it's like, still a movie. You know what I mean?
Still a movie, yeah.
Still a movie.
And so when they're like, when Dermot Maloney's like, oh, she's not a cop anymore. She got taken off the force because of whatever. I'm like, okay, now we're getting into something interesting. Because to me, and I know we're going to get to the killer reveal in a bit, had that twist been a part of it, had it been not Richie's family from the previous movie, which I could do without that entire thing, and it be Kirby went around and collected survivors or people who were impacted by the Scream franchise throughout the entire thing and created a cult so that there was a person for every costume on the shrine that came out, people from Scream, the girl who played Sydney in Scream 3 who was set up as a red herring who fucking went away, like all these people, the cameraman from Scream 2, you could have made it a Far From Home, No Way Home type of franchise thing. And that to me, with Kirby as the lead, would have been so much more satisfying. So anyways, like that, I liked what they did with Kirby, but
I'm not denying that would be way more satisfying. I feel like the cult idea is still something like maybe they're trying to put together. I feel like it's absolutely possible. But
I don't feel like it's possible after this movie. I feel like after the shrines, I'm just like, oh, you had your chance. You had your chance to do the cult.
Maybe, but all I'm saying is the way that they've written these characters and the way that they even like set it up is it does its job of misdirect. It does its job of endearing you, and it does its job of being like, hey, this is the 6th version of this movie. And it does all of those things really well, where it's just like how, like, I feel like the cult idea would have been great, but also the cult idea would have been expected. You know what I mean? So it's some of the things.
Can I tell you why I think the cult one would have been so great for this particular movie? The idea that I'm on the subway and there's a bunch of people wearing masks and I can't really see them and I don't really know I just got out of the pandemic mentality of like, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm seeing everyone wearing masks. Like, you could have just made this so much more tied to the fear and panic that is present in our culture currently by making it this thing of just like anyone could be a fucking
but it
killer.
is, and that's the thing. Like that's what I like about this movie is that it is about the fears, but it's not tying its fears specifically to COVID. It's tying its fear to where we're at as a society. The idea that Mindy is on the train and she can get stabbed, and there are people with their headphones on. There's a girl asleep. Like, she's not alone. And I think that one of the craziest things about Scream and being in the suburbs is, like, for years being out in the suburbs, the cops will never get here on time. Like, that's one of those things where you're like, oh, safety in numbers, safety in the street. But New York, and as someone who used to live in New York being the setting for this one is so genius, because one of the very first kills that we get, when the roommate is in the other room and the guy across the street is just like, hey, and he's like trying to get their attention. He calls and she ignores, and you're like, the killer's in the house. They're right outside the room. Someone is seeing what's going on and trying to tell other people, and no one's paying attention, because that's how cities work.
There were some genuinely good moments in terms of playing into the paranormal that you're talking about, of being in public and also being alone, of being around people and also being unsafe. I wish they would have leaned into it a little bit more, but I will say that this movie does it better than a lot of the other
going to
sequels.
The convenience store. The convenience store, like, again, you're always like, go in, and like the dude has a shotgun, and you're like, all right, we should be safe, but we know that we're not. And I think that that's really interesting. The fact that we know that there's more than one killer. So even though we see someone in front of our face, we're like, is anyone else showing up?
Yeah.
Like that kind of, like, that sense of not being safe in public and not knowing who you can trust is exactly of the time. Even the people who you deem closest to you. There's a moment where we get a fake out where they go, Mindy, and you're like, yo, is it Mindy? Because all of our suspects we've eliminated so far. The only person who's missing is Mindy. And I'm like, I was like, it could be. I don't think it is, but it could be. And the fact that I questioned it made me be like, you guys, you understand that even those closest to us aren't safe. And I really enjoyed that.
I have to say that there's whodunits, obviously, but a Scream and a whodunit is essentially like a paranoid thriller, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen John Carpenter's The Thing. To me, it's like the best paranoid movie of all time. You would love it. It's these men are at the South Pole, and they're working together in these small confines, and there's an alien that can transform itself into a person, and so they don't know who to trust, and the whole thing is like, oh well, who how can I trust that you're you? And how, keep in mind, this movie came out during the AIDS crisis, so when they're like taking blood to test to see who has it and who does it, it's very symbolic. It originally is a remake of a movie that came out during the Red Scare, of just like, who can I trust? These type of whodunits are always so great when the tension in our country is, who can I trust?
Correct.
And so, like, I feel like this movie, the reason why there are things that succeed about it is when it really plays into that idea of just like, wow, yeah, we've been walking around for a year or two when everyone had a mask on, and I couldn't even see someone what their face really looked like with a hoodie on. So, am I safe in public? This movie plays into that really well.
Not only that, but like, also, let's talk about the fact that, like, there are, like, this idea of masculinity saving you. There are several big men who get taken down immediately. There are all of these things that we are told will protect us. There are big men, there are shotguns, there is guns in the home, there are police nearby. Like, there are all of these things that are supposed to be safety net. But if someone wants to get to you, they're going to get to you. And I think that is really important. I think that that's I love that this movie understood that and setting it in New York and being like, hey, by the way, that fear isn't absolved just by being in a city. I feel like it gives the franchise legs.
You know, I feel like this franchise, unfortunately, instead of like setting the path, it's been stealing a lot from the Halloween franchise in terms of like, if you watch Halloween and then you watch Halloween Kills, the violence, the gore, the Michael Myers is a force of nature in Halloween Kills. Like he is just tearing through people like crazy. It's so amped up violence wise. This movie feels very similar. This isn't a ghost face that's stumbling. This isn't a ghost face that's like tripping over cords. This is a ghost face that's coming after you. This
what
is
are
like
you talking
a
about?
killer.
This is a well, I mean, I think it depends on which version you're talking about, but this is a ghost face again where Gale bodies like when
I wonder which one she had. Yeah,
I know, but this is what I'm saying. It's just like it's a very interesting mix, but also by giving us three killers, which we're about to talk about the killers, by giving us three killers, it also again subverts our expectations and it allows it to be a situation of, well, seriously, who can you trust? Because even people who you think are eliminated aren't eliminated. People who you keep your eye on, it can be distracted. They can be used as a distraction. You know what I'm saying?
Like, let's talk about the killer reveal because I have to talk to you about this.
So the killer reveal, first of all, it's a little bit of an homage for, again, if you watch it, you'll know that the killer turns out to be Richie's family. And it turns out to be his dad, which again, the moment the officer is like, since when my son died, I was like, your son is one of the previous killers. I don't know which one, but I know one of the previous killers is your son. I know that because you mentioned when your son died, your life went to hell. Didn't think it was Richie just because it was so soon, but like that pays an homage to Billy's mother being the killer in Scream 2. Again, it's kind of like we're going back to the beginning and it's a parent avenging their child. So there's that. Then it's Richie's two siblings. The brother, which again, the brother, I never trusted, not even for a second. I was like, I can't wait for you to die. I don't know who you are, but I never trusted you. And the moment you die will just be cathartic. And then number 3 is the sister Quinn. And again, the moment Quinn went back inside and grabbed the phone in the bedroom, it was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, Quinn's the killer. That's it. But then Quinn gets killed. And I was like, oh, I just knew Quinn was the killer.
I just say that after watching all the movies, I hate when Scream does the fake kill. To me, it feels like such a lazy way of trying to trick us so that we don't know who the final killer is.
Did you know it was Quinn at the end? I mean, I just asked you the question. Did you know?
No, I honestly didn't expect it. But again, it's like I've seen them do the fake kill in so many sequels at this point now. So at this point, it's just like no one's death really feels permanent until the final act when the reveal happens. And I don't know. When you watch the first Scream movie, as people die, the short list gets smaller and smaller. So that scene in the first movie where you have Randy and you have Stu trying to come into the house and Sydney's like, I'm locking you both out. That makes sense. There's tension that's building organically within the story. There's no like, oh, Tatum is actually alive and she's coming out of the woods.
Billy is like, actually like the whole third act is Billy.
You know what? You're right. Billy does that. But that's also, what I mean. They've done it in every movie.
But what I want to say is it's also it's classic whodunit. Like Agatha Christie level. Go back, someone who you thought was dead. Someone you eliminated from the list isn't actually dead. And it's one of those situations to where it preys on your adrenaline. You're so hyped up, you're not noticing. Again, just from the fact that one of the clues, like there are so many clues that are like and breadcrumbs that are left in there. The fact that someone took all of
the knives. Yeah.
I was like, so it's someone in the house. Yeah. It has to be someone in the house because we just saw Sam check the knives. So the fact that all the knives are gone means that the killer was in the house.
I'm not saying it's not a successful plot device to have someone fake their death. I'm just saying this franchise leans on it far too heavily. That's all.
And you think that that's better than a guy who could just keep coming back to life no matter what?
Well, no. Again, I we're going to get into our final thoughts on this, but I would argue that this series would benefit from being serialized versus trying to. We'll get into it later, but okay. I struggle with this idea that there's so much homage happening to the original movie and all of these previous movies that the conversation is now becoming a conversation about Scream instead of a conversation about horror movies, which was what made the first one so interesting.
And see, I'm going to disagree with you there. I felt like there were so many homages to different slashers, specifically 90s slashers, but so many like that scene of Samara Weaving in the alley is I Know What You Did Last Summer. It is Sarah Michelle Gellar in that alley. Help is right down the road. And that's what I got from that moment. And I was just like, oh, there are lots of things where it feels like it's like, we know you've seen all the modern slashers and it's trying to address those. Also, let's just talk about the idea a little bit of them commenting on Redditors and conspiracy theories and ruining someone's reputation. It's like, it's not enough just to kill someone now. You need to kill their what's the word I'm looking for? Their good name. Their reputation. Like that's
an interesting concept.
I feel like that was so dead.
I don't feel like they really leaned into it. I feel like the Reddit thing they did in Scream 5 when Richie was like, "Oh, and me and this girl." By the way, I love that this new trilogy is like, "Don't trust white people. All the white people are the killers. Don't trust them." But in the last one, they were like, "Oh yeah, we met on Reddit. We read on," and that's honestly how Billy's mom met Mickey in Scream 2. We met on the chat room. Like, it just feels like there are these serial killer networks.
Well, first of all, there are, like, let's talk about that. People always are going to find a way to connect. Like, that's where that is. People find each other. Again, technology. How are we letting people connect with each other? But also, like, and is the idea that people with similar ideas get to come together, is that always a good thing? But also the idea of using, like, when Samantha is recorded by that one girl who assaulted her, and then it's on the news the next day as, oh, look at her attacking this girl. It's like, no, reputation. Like not Sydney's, that goes to show you, but Samantha's reputation is also being dragged, even though she is the victim. And I think that is really important, that you can create different narratives.
I feel like Scream 4 does this so much better when they're talking about Sydney as the angel of death versus sympathizing with her as a victim. That's what I mean. The concept that you're saying, there's nothing wrong with them. I've just seen them in all the other Scream movies, and I just want something new. I just want something different.
Okay. You know what? I will give you that. I personally, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit defensive because I'm like, what's your franchise doing? Tell me how Halloween did this. All right?
No,
tell me what Halloween did.
I'm not saying that Halloween is even a better franchise. I'm just saying that, like, the thing that made Scream 1 so fresh was that it felt different. And all of the sequels feel like an homage to the first movie versus there being commentary. Like, the last movie, they bring up Babadook, they bring up Jordan Peele, like, they bring up these art house, like, Midsommar movies, but then they don't really do anything with it. They're like, oh yeah, those are nice, but we're not going to comment on that really. And it just feels like, it's like, well, that's what's happening in horror. So, like, why aren't you being the commentary? Why aren't you having the conversation while simultaneously participating in it in a way that's equally enjoyable? And I feel like the first movie is the only one that successfully does
Here's that. The thing, that I will give you. Now, I will say that this talks about, it's a franchise. And with franchises, the stories get a little paint by numbers. Like, if we're talking, like, think of Fast and Furious. Think of James Bond. Like, there are just certain things where it's just like, oh, I know what we're doing, because this is what we have to do. You are not going to give me anything wildly outside of the realm, because you can't do that. I know that Michael Myers is coming back. I know that Jigsaw, it's all going to come together in the final act. Like, I just know these things because it's a franchise. And by it being a franchise, the only way that you can surprise me, like, I think of, like, Final Destination is a really good one, where it's like, the surprise in the last one that they did was that it was actually a prequel. That was the surprise.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the last of the Fast and Furious one. But what I feel like is
Final
just
Destination.
that
Yeah.
by them moving this to New York, into a city filled with people, with ways that you think not only do the regular tropes of being isolated in suburbia not apply, but these people have grown up watching every single movie just as much as you have, and they should know better, and they should be behaving differently. And in some ways they do, and it doesn't really help. Like, and again, if you're planning for 2 killers, for example, what are you going to do when there's 3? That's where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely reached the Jason Takes Manhattan part of the franchise.
Exactly, but in a way that's good. I will not allow you. I will not allow. You can have your
I'm not
problems.
going to slander.
Ways that no, I'm just saying you can say there are ways that this could be better, and I will not fight you on that. But I can't. I will not allow you to pretend that this 6th installment of this franchise
is better than most 6 installments of any other franchise. Exactly. I will hands down agree with you. I truly was looking through like all the major horror franchises, and other than like Nightmare on Elm Street, I can't think of a franchise where I'm like, oh, I would actually willingly return to these films of this franchise often. And like even Scream, I'm not returning to all of them. But there are a few that I will go back to. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point is just that let's do our rankings since we're here. And
okay.
Let's try to wrap this up.
All right. So your ultimate Scream ranking, how do you rank all of the movies, starting from worst to best?
Worst to best. Okay, so I just got to read it backwards. It's really hard. I know other people feel differently. I feel like Scream 2022 is right there on the bottom for me.
Scream 5, you mean?
Scream 5. Yeah. For me, it's on the bottom. It really missed the mark. To me, it felt the most like you guys missed what Scream was about, and you just needed to tell another story. Like that to me. We got some really good characters. I'm not gonna lie. The twins coming in was really good. But outside of that, I'm literally sitting here being like, can I even really remember most of the other like kills? You know what I mean? Like nothing's really memorable to me. And I feel like they used technology wrong. I didn't like it. Then 3 has grown on me with some time because it feels very kitsch. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna lie. At this point in time, living in LA, knowing certain things, I feel like 3 is not great. But it fits in. It does a lot of fun campy things. And if you're going to have a campy version in your movie, that was a fun campy version of that. Then I'm going to go. Oh, all right. We're doing my ranking. You can talk about you in a little bit. Then I'm going to go. I said, so we did.
You did 5 and 3.
5, 3, 4. I really enjoyed 4. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to go 2. So it goes, for me, it goes 5, 3, 2. And I know that's very controversial because a lot of people like 2 more, but I feel like there are moments in 2 where I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm really
also
bored.
I in terms of third act problems, Scream 2 is right up there. Like all of these movies have third act problems. Exactly. Scream 2 especially.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a third act. Third act is not its shining star, which is crazy because the first one, the third act, really like just it sets on fire. Then I'm gonna go 4 because I thought 4 was actually really good. I really thought that 4, it gives us Kirby. It gives us a new generation. And what I wanted more than anything, and I feel like the franchise almost shot itself in the foot, and which is why they had to do 2022, is if they would have let Jill...
I can't have this conversation with you again. Jill needed to have succeeded in Scream 4. That should have been the new trilogy.
It would have been phenomenal. It would have been it needed to do that. It would have subverted expectations. It would have changed the game. We would have been able to get so many new stories. We could have gotten the cult thing like almost immediately. Jill being the killer and surviving and her plan going off, that scene where Jill is on the stretcher and all the cameras are asking her, that is your final scene. That's where that movie needs to end. and it's perfect. You could even bring Sydney could have not died. We can find that out. Like all of that, I didn't need. I needed Jill to succeed because she earned it, and that's what the movie told me. And because she didn't, that is the only reason why that one's my number 3. Then I'm going this one. I feel like it takes everything that we've had, everything that we hated about 5, everything that we joked about 3, everything that we loved about the planning and a new generation of 4, and it puts it all together and it gives me a fresh story. I know that you don't feel it so fresh, but I feel like for this franchise, it gave me the most I don't know who the killer is, and it could be anyone feeling that I haven't had since 1, which of course is my number 1. All right, you give me your ranking.
Well, at the bottom of my list is Scream 3. For Courtney Cox's bangs alone, Scream 3 deserves to be at the bottom of the list.
Those bangs are atrocious.
Also, I hate Parker Posey in that movie. I find her to be so annoying.
Controversial take, I'm with you. I don't really enjoy Parker Posey. I feel like she overdoes it all the time. But in that one, again, if we're going camp, I feel like 3 is just pure camp. Like you got to watch 3 going in being like,
if you want a campy movie, serial movie, watch Bride of Chucky. It's a way better, campier slasher film. Like this is just a not good movie. It's not satisfying. Anyways, Sydney apparently has a brother, got brought up for a second, never brought up again, whatever. Yeah. After Scream 3, I'm going Scream 5. And for all the reasons you said, the reason why Scream 5 suffers as a reboot of the franchise is because if you're watching the movies in order, all of the main beats to reboot a franchise, they do in Scream 4. So now we have to do a reboot right after a reboot, and it suffers from it. It really suffers from it. Also, I cannot stress to you enough that the killer reveal of Scream 5 is maybe the worst killer reveal of all time. To think that the Tara's friend, who is 5'2", kills Dewey and guts him like a no. There's physically no way. Like, and that's the thing is that they the last few movies have been hiring like a stunt person to be Ghostface, and then when you watch the movie, they're like, that makes visually no sense. It does not work. I can't follow it. Scream 2, I'm going to put at my number 4 spot. Scream 2 is, like you said, other than the opening scene with Jada Pinkett, which is the best part about that entire movie,
absolutely,
by the way.
Absolutely.
The second act is boring, and the third act is it is just like, wait, what is this? The only thing that is so frustrating about Scream 2 is that, like, in Scream 2, you have Sydney pursuing acting, and in Scream 3, it turns out that her mom was an actress, and they never make the tie. Like, they never connect it. It's so frustrating. You're Anyways, so that's Scream 2. I thought the whole Billy's mom thing being the killer, it felt very like an homage to Psycho at a point where we've already had so many homages to Psycho that it was boring. I wasn't into it. And also that script changed the killers last minute. So if you watch it, it doesn't make sense.
A lot of the ones that I will say, like really quickly, Scream 2 and Scream 3, and even Scream 4, what they suffered the most from is last minute changes. Like when you know what it was supposed to be, you're like, that would have been good. And I see all those pieces there. And then there were leaks or whatever, and they changed it. And you're like you should have just stuck with it. You should have just stuck with it.
Scream 3 feels like the most circle jerk movie of just like, let's just make a movie about us, about how we make these movies. And I was just like, oh.
But it wasn't supposed to be that. Like the script got leaked and they had to do a whole new script. And
then take another year. Then take another year. All right, Scream 6 falls next on my list. And it's mostly because, again, they made the last one a year ago. Like, if you watch this movie, it was a very exciting movie, but I think that, like, in terms of watching it, it's going to be a fun, like, Halloween something to have on in the background. But to actually enjoy the story, I don't know that I'm going to, because what story is there really in Scream 6 other than a bunch of survivors try to move on and they get hunted again? Like, there's so many, like I said, the whole thing with the franchise, bringing in legacy characters as the killers would have been really interesting, setting up this Ghostface cult to where so many people are Ghostface and people you didn't expect, bringing back people from the former movies would have been so much interesting. Having Kirby go from obsessed with movies to the killer makes so much more sense than I'm a police officer and I'm gonna dress up like a costume. You're a cop. You can kill me in broad daylight. You can get away with it. Why are you going?
Maybe that's why they didn't do it. They're like, how are cops any different?
It's just, to me, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Scream 4 is in my number 2 slot for all the reasons you said. I feel like in terms of rebooting it, I feel like that's a far more satisfying version of a reboot. I again, up until the last, killer reveal thing where they just have Jill getting shot in the forehead like they do with every killer at the end of every movie. I'm so bored of this shot in the forehead thing. That movie is probably the most enjoyable to rewatch in terms of like, they're talking about the Stab franchise and how they're doing it. I love the idea of, the next progress in these line of killings is not to kill people, it's to live stream it. It's to put it on the internet. It's to frighten large groups of people at once with one act. That is the most interesting idea that this franchise has had that they just completely abandoned.
Well, and then also, like, this is the reason why Scream 4 got moved down is specifically because of the fact that they don't commit to the really great swings that they took. The idea of Jill doing this for celebrity at a time where being a reality star, like we saw,
everything.
like it was everything, and it became the next 10 years. They called it, and had they just let her gotten away with it, honestly, the fact that they don't let her get away with it and get what she wants, which is what needed to happen, and would have been very like foreshadowing of like a Trump or someone who's like, they use their misdeeds to gain celebrity, would have been great. But then also, I have to deduct points from the opening of Scream 4.
Oh, Scream 4 has the weakest opening. I will say that.
The weakest opening.
The movie within the movie thing. It
doesn't make sense.
I have to just say this: if Scream 4 had ended with Jill getting away, then we find out in Scream 5 that there is a cult that's now hunting Jill. And then we find out that through some series of events, the person in the final Ghostface mask who kills Jill is actually Sydney, who survived and like did it to like, I want to watch that series. Like, I want to watch a killer getting away with it and them having to like keep the facade up and the cracks in the foundation. And now they're getting stalked by someone. And who is this person who thinks they're me? Like, so many interesting things we could have done. Obviously, Scream 1 is at the top. Again, Scream 1 is the only movie that succeeds in having the conversation and participating in the genre, and both of those things being equally interesting. When we get into Scream 2, they're like, here's the rules for a sequel. Here's the rules for a trilogy. Here's the rules for a reboot. Here's the rules for a requel. Like, it's just, after a while, it's just like, clearly none of these rules are working.
Well,
no one is surviving other than the core characters, so clearly these rules aren't working.
But tell me right now, what genre are we in with horror movies? Like, what genre is there to participate in? Right now,
well, that's what I mean. Like, right now, there's so many interesting things happening with non-franchise horror movies, and it almost feels like the easiest conversation to have is, well, let's have a conversation about these big legacy franchises, but like,
we're the edge of MCU, baby. Like, franchise is the only thing they could have done. Like, what I'm saying is, right now,
well, then do it. Then do it. Defined. Bring it back. Give me No Way Home. Give me like 8 movies worth of Scream killers or something. Like, if you're gonna have the shrine,
maybe you'll get that in 8.
Build it. Like, if you're gonna have the TV that killed Stu, like all these collectible things, like do it. Like, lean into, this is a multiverse franchise and we're bringing back people. Like, that would have been it. This just, it doesn't stick the landing the way that Scream 1 does. And by the way, Scream 1, the reveal of 2 killers was so revolutionary that to just simply add a 3rd killer or a 4th killer or whatever for the sequels, like, it, to me, it doesn't have the initial impact of, oh, I was afraid of 1 person, but I should have been afraid of 2. Like, that is the Bruce Willis Sixth Sense like reveal that they keep trying to redo that magic trick, and it never ever feels as good as the first one.
Lightning in a bottle. You can't, sometimes you just can't make a Home Alone again. You know, like, sometimes it's just not.
And okay, so this is what I was saying. I feel like this series would have been better if it was serialized. Give me Scream talking about slasher films, and then give me Scream 2, completely new cast, completely new subject matter, talk about a different part of the horror genre. Maybe where, like, the thing that Scary Movie does, which is actually really interesting, is that they are talking about, like, the first movie is about slashers, but the second one is more about ghost movies, and the third one is more about alien movies, and like, they're really tackling all of these different parts of the subgenres of horror in ways that Scream is like, no, we're just gonna keep talking about these one type of horror movies.
Just the slashers.
Just the slashers. And I feel like they would benefit from evolving past that conversation that they've had 6 times now. Well, so
something to look forward to in the future. I feel like
I'm coming down really hard. I really did enjoy Scream 6. I had a good time with it. But my only gripe, my only complaint is that the first one just did something so original, so fresh, and it just feels like they're afraid of taking risks, because we talked about many cases within the sequels, specifically Scream 4, where they had the opportunity to take a risk and do something fresh again, but then they reverted back to default, and it's just like boring now.
I'll say this. I'll say 100%. As we wrap this conversation up, I agree with you that I'm looking at the movies with all of the decisions that have already been made in mind, and I feel like 6 does the best job that it can, considering all the decisions that we considering the foundation that it's currently built on, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I feel like it does what it can given all the pieces that it has. To me, I feel like the franchise would be completely different had 4 gone a different way. I feel like 4 was its greatest opportunity to really shake up everything and give us a Scream 1 type ending to where we were like, anything is possible.
Yeah.
They didn't. They went back to formula, and because they went back to formula, they essentially told us that they would continue to do formula, and I feel like 6 is the best of that formula holistically.
Let me ask you this. What do you need to see in the trailer for Scream 7 to get you interested? Because I have to be honest, like, if they're just going to do another movie in New York, I don't know that that's going to do it for me.
I don't know if they're going to see. I don't know if they'll do another one in New York. In reality, let's go to Paris. Like, like at some point in time, I think it's interesting, because if the only thing I can think of that would come close to like
Scream in Space.
Genre, well, not Scream in Space, but like the genre is when you start to bring in social commentary, but I mean, like, racial, like, that's what Nope is. That's that's what Midsommar brings in, gender dynamics. Like, if you really want to talk about what horror is doing right now, you have to start really going to places that I don't know if we want Kevin Williamson to go. I don't know if that's his space, and I don't know if he would be able to do so in a way.
Well, I have to say that Kevin Williamson was the one who originated the idea of the Scream cult, and his idea kept getting pushed under the rug by the studios, it seems like. So I don't feel like they've really let him have the vision that he's wanted for this franchise either, which is sad. I would be incredibly interested if Scream 7 was this really, like, budget confined, intimate type of almost like what Prey was for the Predator series, where it's Sydney isolated in the woods, and there's a scream, and it's just a very intimate one-on-one, kind of like, do you ever see the movie Hush on Netflix?
Yes.
About the deaf woman, and she has to figure, that's the movie I want.
You know,
Sydney, one ghost face in the house. I have kids. I'm trying to protect it, and that's the movie. Give me that.
7, Cabin in the Woods, I actually feel would work. I also feel like that's a genre in and of itself.
Of course.
And I feel like you have something there to where we can do, like, you're right. Let's strip it all of everything. Let's bring it back to just the core element of in a house, protecting your family. What can you do?
What can you do?
And I really do like, I like that idea. I don't think they're going to do it, but I do like it. I do like it.
They're going to keep throwing budget at it. We're going to get Scream on a cruise boat. Whatever is going to happen next. I'm sure we're going to get another movie in a year, by the way, because this one's doing so well. They're going to turn it out as fast as possible.
Final question. Final question.
Final question. Yeah.
Favorite kill of this movie?
Of the movie? Oh, I thought you were going to say of the franchise.
Scream 6. Favorite movie. Favorite kill.
I think it was Tony Ravolori's kill in the beginning because that was the one that I had the least expectations of. Like, that's the one that kind of came out of nowhere, that the Scream mask wearer is the person who's getting the phone call. I just thought that was really interesting. In terms of like kills and deaths, it all kind of blurs together for me.
I'm going to say I feel like the latter scene really does, defines itself as one of those, all the pieces are there, we know what's happening, we know where we're going, but it still delivers. I just feel like it's one that it's going to make itself notable in the franchise. That idea, and I like that actress. I thought she did really good. I thought everything about that situation made sense, and I really thought that it did well.
Do you have a favorite kill of the franchise?
Jada. I just feel like Jada's is like, as Black people watching this thing, you're always like, that wouldn't be me. And so to see Jada be like, that wouldn't be me, I'd be out of there. Like, it really strikes a note, and it's the very first time that we get a public people around you.
That's what I was going to say. All the things that were scary about death happening in public that happened in the last few movies happened the best in that Scream 2.
That Scream 2, it's just like, here's the thing. I go to any Scream movie and I immediately think of that scene where it's like, the killer could be in this room.
Also, you take that scene out of that movie, you have a very worse movie.
I agree. Completely agree.
No, the worst kill of the whole franchise, like I said, was Courtney Cox's bangs in Scream 3.
All right. Thank you. For those of you who stuck with us this long, you know how we were. I'm not even going to apologize. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. Please be sure to rate us. Know that we are coming back to season 6. And just so you know, if you made it to this long, you guys have been doing really great at sending us emails and conversations on Instagram. Please continue to do so. We have been getting your emails. We have been getting your responses. As I said earlier, we've been a little behind the ball with season 6 ourselves, but just know that we will be coming back with more episodes for Boy Meets World. Ceej, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I would just, again, please check out Scream 6 and let us know your thoughts in the comments, and just let us know what you thought about the movie and how you felt like if we missed anything that you guys wanted to talk about. Like, why is Sam hooking up with a random dude? You should know better. Like, I like that random dude.
I thought their relationship with that dude, where she was like, you know what? I don't know you. I was like, yes, we learning. Okay. You guys, you know us, so please follow us at Boy Meets World. Leave us a rating. Tell us how much you like us. Tell us how much you appreciate us. And we will do the same. And I think there's nothing more to say than dream,
try,
and do good. Later, bruh.
Later, bruh.
When this boy meets world.